The tall wall that greeted me was made of stone. It reminded me of a medieval city. I still wore my old hiking sneakers, though they were now slowly falling apart, and I had a thick deer fur around me to keep me warm. My beard and hair grew enough so that I basically looked like a caveman that emerged from the forest. As I approached a large field where farmland stretched as far as the eye could see, I took a small path toward one of the entrances to the city. I had a large stick that acted as a cane of sorts, which aided my aching legs. I had walked nonstop for a few days already. I was way too tired and I hardly noticed the weird looks I got from the farmers who were working in the fields around me. As I came upon the entrance, I saw that the wall was much taller than I expected. It rivaled the stories I heard of ancient walls that once stood proud and strong back home. I did see in the future some black smoke going into the air, and I was presumed it was for heating, but then again, why would you heat something in the middle of such a warm day? A guard approached me. He was dressed in chainmail armor and helmet that resembled those of the Roman era, but surprisingly what looked like a rifle slung over his shoulder. He approached me calmly. I could see that he had purple eyes, and it was quite a strange sight. He spoke to me in a foreign language. I was not surprised in the least, since the distance I made in the last few months is not in the least small. It felt as if this world was much larger than Earth. I spoke to the guard in English, and after that failed, I attempted the language I learned in the last year in the village. I thought it would not work, but surprisingly the guard turned and called someone down. I saw a younger guard come out. I saw another guard come out. This one was much younger than the purple-eyed one in front of me. In the younger one, I could see those familiar red eyes of those of the last village. The purple-eyed guard said something to the red one, and then the purple-eyed guard said something to the red-eyed guard, and then the red-eyed one spoke. He asks, "Who are you and what brought you here?" I didn't speak for a few moments, thinking of a response. "I came from the forest. I don't know that there will be a large settlement here. I just stumbled upon it." The red-eyed guard presumably translated what I said. After that, he told something to the red-eyed one and quickly entered the city. "You know my language, but your eyes are not red." "You know my language, but your eyes are not red," the young guard said to me. "I am not sure how I got here, to be honest with you. I was saved by one of your people's villages, and I lived with them for a few months, learning the language. Unfortunately, the village was attacked and destroyed. I managed to escape. I don't know if there were any other survivors." I answered to the young guard who stood there, his eyes wide. "The village was attacked? By who? Tell me!" he almost screamed at me. I was taken aback by his reaction. I thought that conflict between his people was common. "I think it is the neighboring village. I'm not sure. There was a dispute in hunting territory or something." The guard looked down at the ground for a moment, and then he said calmly, "What do you remember when you came here?" I thought back to the first memory I had when I came to this strange place. "I fell, found myself in a cave. I'm not sure you'll believe me, but I am not from around here." The guard's eyes went wide again. "Wait, brown eyes, cave, by Plataea?" He ran toward the city entrance. He nearly hit the purple-eyed guard who was just returning. He started speaking quickly in a language I couldn't understand, explaining something to the other guard. The purple-eyed guard nodded to what he said and motioned to me that I may enter, and I followed him. And once I entered the city, I could hear the sound of straining metal and an outburst of steam from one of the pipes protruding out of the wall. The gates were closing. I followed the guard further into the city, and I saw many people going about their day. The streets were filled with vendors and salesmen. The house was not the same. The houses were not so much houses as they were apartments built made of brick and stone. Some more decorated than others. I saw the smoke stacks from which the black smoke came from. I could hear the distant sound of roaring steam engines from the inside of the large building we had just passed. The purple-eyed guard stopped next to me in what looked like an inn or a hotel. He knocked on the door and waited, and a small slit opened up on the metal door and a pair of eyes could be seen. The two went back and forth for a minute before the door opened. The guard motioned me to enter. Behind the door was a smaller man with purple eyes. Most of the inhabitants had purple eyes, though I could see some of the people with green, blue, and red and contrasting colors of hair. It was quite a sight. I presumed it signified lineage or, a rank. The guard gave the man some coins, and he had some parting words with the tall man, after which he closed the door and locked it. He then led me into a room that was upstairs. He motioned me to enter the room. The room had a desk and a chair and quite a comfy looking bed. I got my backpack on the floor when the man closed the door behind me and locked it from the outside. I banged on the door for a few minutes, but there was no way I'm breaking down that door. I accepted my fate this time. I was simply too tired to fight back in the moment. Months of just straight walking after the horrors I had seen. I was tired. Probably hopeless. I laid on the bed. It was not as soft as the one back home, but it was a huge upgrade from the cold, hard ground I had been sleeping on. After about an hour, the door unlocked, and a woman entered with a plate of food. She left the plate and left, locking the door behind her. If they're going to feed me, I can stay here for a while. I can plan my escape when I gather my strength back. If it will be necessary, that is. The food was marvelous. It was maybe my hunger, but it was truly good quality food. After eating and feeling full, I just fell asleep, only to be woken by the door being unlocked again. This time 2 different guards were waiting on the other side. They grabbed me and dragged me out. I shouted in protest and was met by a rifle barrel pointed to my head. I was silent from then on. They led me back onto the streets and dragged me into a carriage. I was forcibly sat into the vehicle, and the teal bulky guards sat down on both of my sides. Another 2 were opposite of myself. The carriage ride lasted about 15 minutes before we stopped. Then I was dragged out and put onto my feet at gunpoint. In front of me looked like akin to a small mansion, but built in like a Greek style. I was escorted inside, where I was treated less harshly. We walked through the endless halls. I saw men and women in white robes with some purple on them. Nobles, I would guess, and they stared at me with pity or disgust, or even both. I was finally in front of a large door. One of the guards knocked on the door, and a voice could be heard from behind it. The 2 guards opened the large double doors, and I was pushed inside as the doors closed behind me again. "No, piss off," I shouted at the man who threw me inside. "Oh, there will be no need for learning something new today. A shame," a raspy voice said in English. I stood up. "Who are you?" "I am the king of this fine city, as well as its founder," the raspy voice responded. I could see a large desk at which the man sat in front of, and he had green eyes. Seemed to be very old. "God damn it, what is with your men? They're gonna treat me as if I'm a guest or prisoner. Can't they choose one?" I said in protest. A laugh could be heard. "I don't mind the brutes. My name is Trost II. I am the founder of the Novus Troia. May I have your name and title?" "My name is Ray, and I have no title. Unless you think of like my surname, that would be Aaron. Ray Aaron." Ray Aaron. "Do you wish to live here?" "It would be great, but the first impression's not good, I'll have to admit." "Now can you speak English?" "I learned the English tongue less than 100 years ago, the 3,160 years since this city's foundation. A large boat made of iron and steel happened to stumble upon your city. We helped the crew, and in return they helped us. They taught us the scientific method, as you call it." That is why you see the great power of steam on display throughout Nova Troya. They spoke English? But wait, did you say 3,100 years after? And you are the founder? And that was supposedly 100 years ago? The mortal sees. He raised his hand into the air and then lowered them back down on his desk. I have a mission to lead my people to glory that was long lost, and the faraway people of your kind aided us in that. I have sent many expeditions to find your fairway lands, but none had returned. And the men who invited us didn't seem to know how to return. It was a true sorrow. What do you plan on doing then? I can tell you that I'm not from this world. I somehow just found myself here. Don't be silly. Only the people of Troy were blessed by the gods to traverse to this land. You and your people may be enlightened, but you are not blessed by the gods. He pointed a finger at me and had a more serious tone. I will make a new expedition, and you will be its head. You will lead us back to your homeland, even if it is the last thing that you will do. You came from the sea, that is certain. I heard you emerge from the forest and know the barbaric tongue of the red eyes, but your brown eyes say that you are not as barbaric as them. You have been fooled by them. But I applaud you for learning their foul tongue. It is indeed an honorable act for your dishonorable people. What do you mean, dishonorable people? It saved my life, old man. I don't care who you are. You're not going to manipulate me to go into certain death. If none are returned, even with tech that you have learned from the Brits or the Americans, then I'm not sure there's no end to that ocean. You'll end up on the other side of the continent, if anything else. Better sail along the coast. You'll have better luck. Probably, I said. They saved your life. That may be true. But we will be the ones that will make you prosper. Find your way home with us, and I will grant you any wish you want. Money, woman, fame. That can all be yours if you listen to me. Those savages can only offer you destitution. And Brits or Americans? Who are those people of Brits that you speak of? I know of the American people, but not the Brits. The British, old man, they also speak English. God, you're annoying, aren't you? Listen, I will not heed your I felt a pressure on my neck as my feet could no longer feel the ground. You will listen to me, mortal, or I will throw you into the Hades. It felt as he was going to decapitate me just by crushing my neck with an invisible hand. Like he had the force or something. I heed. I was barely able to say as I was thrown back onto the ground, panting and wheezing as air filled my lungs again. Wise choice, Ray Aaron. And so I became just like that, I became a guard of Nova Troya. Up until the new ships are built, I will serve the city and Lord Tros. Even though it seemed like a simple existence, it was anything but. The quality of life was not really on par with anything back home. The food for the guards is bland and tasteless. The quarters where I slept were packed, and sometimes I slept in the towers while on duty. Only when the rare occurrence happened that the night was actually peaceful. As per the nights, oh God, I was alone. The creatures didn't harass me for whatever reason, but went on guard duty, and ever since I came to this godforsaken city where they were relentless. When the sun is about to set, everyone rushes behind the walls. Those who are too late are left for the dead outside, because we don't open the gates for anyone when the allotted time for evacuation is complete. That rule was imposed when some creature-possessed farmer, when he entered the wrecked havoc inside, killing around 50 people before actually being dealt with. Us guards have to keep our eyes open nonstop until the dawn breaks. The creatures that emerge from the forest are unlike anything I'd ever seen. I did witness an array of strange creatures, but nothing too alien or unholy. The biped with two black eyes was the scariest thing I had seen up until my third night as a guard. I saw them again, not only that, there were many of them. And those other goddamn creatures. I was trembling just remembering those things. Other than that, tall biped were the bear things, and a thing that is similar to the biped. It walked on two legs, but it was freakishly tall with arms that stretched to the floor. It had a human-like face with black sockets for eyes and a constant frown, and it was completely hairless. It would scream into the night with a primal shriek. I remember seeing it for the first time as I thudded towards the wall. Its height was about 2/3 the height, but if it extended its arms, it would be able to reach us with no problem. Quote, the tall men, as the residents of Novus Troya called them, were one of their biggest threats. They aren't that common, but aren't uncommon either. Every week on average a pack of them would emerge. Luckily we would know in advance, as they would shriek and tower over the trees. Seeing the silhouettes of them approaching is terrifying in and of itself. But once we point a light at them, it's even more so. The tall men are one of many. We have the quote crawlers. They are like spider-like creatures that climb up the walls. They are common, but the wall has protective measures against them. And even if a few of them come up, they are killed with just one or two bullets. Their appearance is like that of a spider, I said. They have a vaguely human face on the front of its body, black sockets for its eyes. It looks vaguely like a face of an infant, actually. It is really disturbing. It has 6 eyes that it's used for its vision. They are located slightly above its face. The body is identical to the spider, though it is around a meter tall and is around 2 meters in length. Now for the crown winner of the Miss/Mr. Terrifying thing out here, the Minotaur, or as I like to call them, Bethamin. I probably didn't write it correctly, but if you know, you know. He or she, it is opposed to a monster kin, is not numerous. There's actually only one Minotaur out here, and he appears quite rarely. Once in a blue moon. More realistically, from what I've heard every few years, and when it does, it leaves a trail of death and destruction in its wake. He appears on calm nights when you least expect it. It starts with voices in your head telling you to do all sorts of horrible things. It starts mild and progressively gets worse and worse. People then try to find where he is hiding in order to shoot him. You can't kill him, but you can hurt him so that he just, pisses off. But he hides really well or is too far away. People did find him. Those few who saw him and lived to tell the tale retell the story of being in a meditation pose, sitting on the floor with one arm raised next to his face, thumb and index finger completely raised while his middle finger is extended halfway. It has the body of a man, but a head of a bull, or a goat with long horns. If he comes, the casualties are large. Mostly suicides. Men shoot themselves or throw themselves off the wall to stop the voices. Others are seemingly possessed and attack their brothers in arms like savage animals. Most deaths on the wall guards are actually attributed exclusively to the Minotaur. That thing is more dangerous than all the other creatures combined. But tales are told of the original threat. A legend that is worshipped by a small minority of people in the city. Platea. She is the goddess and the protector of the forest. She is either in the form of a fox with 9 tails or a wolf. Sometimes she is depicted in a form of a young black-haired woman with piercing red eyes. Now, she wasn't seen by anyone alive on the guard. Those are only legends. But I believe that, and and I am now home and writing this to you. Because of her. It was a day I will remember till I go into the ground. That day was my last as a guard of Nova Troya. I was preparing for my journey and my eventual death, because of the creatures of the forest are like this, and this god knows what is hiding beneath the waves. The night was calm, yet something didn't feel right. The Minotaur came to mind, but I somehow knew it wasn't him. And the night passed uneventfully. I remember as I departed to the ocean on a clear day, yet in moments dark clouds rode in. Clouds so dark that the day was turned into night. Then I remember hearing shots and screaming from the land. The city in the distance erupted into chaos from an unknown force. I remember a flying eagle soared above as rain started pouring and as thunder slammed around us. The waves were taller and taller with each passing moment. The eagle came closer and closer. The crew began shooting at it, but it was useless. The bullets only seemed to irritate the bird, but soon enough the bird turned into a woman with long flowing black hair and eyes as red as blood. She landed on the deck of the ship and started slaughtering the crew. I still remember the screams of the men pleading for mercy as she ripped them apart like a nothing. Then suddenly, apart from the rain and waves, there was silence. Footsteps approached me as I cowered in a corner, soaking wet from the rain. I couldn't even let out a whimper. I was scared beyond comprehension. The footsteps stopped in front of me, and I opened my eyes to see the woman in front of me. She had a loose black gown that fit her black hair and contrasted her pale skin. I stood up. She raised her hand and she said only one word. One word by one person that sounded like it was told by hundreds simultaneously.
Return.
Then with a flick of her wrist, I was thrown overboard by an unseen force. I was constantly bombarded by the waves. Water began filling my lungs and I felt as I was in a whirlpool of water being dragged deeper and deeper below. Then I saw only black and heard no other sounds. I woke up on a boat with people who looked, well, normal. They spoke another language, but it was a language I recognized. I was saved by local Cuban fishermen in the Bermuda Triangle of all places, which was on the other side of the world where I originally fell into the hole in that small cave. Now, I never had any really close family, so my disappearance wasn't immediately noticed. But I decided to take the chance and rebuild my life. I changed my name and my identity. I live far away from my birthplace now. If I were ever to tell my story to anyone, they would call me insane. You two probably think that as well. But heed my word. If you see any strange openings or any strange feelings in certain places, leave and avoid them. It might be an adventure, but it might as well be an involuntary adventure. If you seek such thrills, I can't stop you really. I can tell you they have a pattern, and that they are cleverly placed around the world. That's as much as I know. Be careful out there, all of you, wherever you are.